My name is Hannah Cole, 32, a freelance journalist from Michigan. Our family's New Year's tradition at the lake house was everything to me. Barbecues, fishing, and laughter that made me feel alive. I poured my heart into every detail, believing it held us together. But last November, my dad's voice cut through our planning call like a blade. Traditions are for parents. You can skip this year, he said. Calm, cold. Skip it. They were inviting neighbors and my brother's girlfriend instead, as if I didn't matter. My chest tightened, but I forced a nod and ended the call. That moment flipped a switch. I wasn't going to beg for a seat at their table. I made a choice that shocked them all. When they saw what I did next, their phones lit up with calls I didn't answer. And what happened after? It changed everything. Growing up in Michigan, our lake house was where I felt most connected. Those childhood summers, just my parents, my older brother, and me, felt like magic. Our lake house, tucked along a quiet shore, was our sanctuary. Every New Year's, we gathered for a weekend of barbecues, fishing trips, and twinkling lights strung across the dock. It wasn't just a holiday. It was our glue. My mom, Evelyn Cole, was the heart of the kitchen. She'd spend days planning the menu. Grilled ribs, corn on the cob, her famous potato salad that neighbors raved about. She'd hum old Motown tunes, her hands deftly chopping vegetables while I watched in awe. Dad, Richard Cole, took charge of the lake. A gruff engineer with a soft spot for fishing, he'd lead us out on the boat, teaching us how to cast lines and spot the best places for base. His laughter echoed when we reeled in a big one, and he'd slap my brother's back. Proud of his knack for it, my role was different. I was the spark, the one who made the lake house glow. At 10, I started stringing lights along the dock, weaving them through the railings until the whole place shimmered under the stars. By 16, I was leading games, scavenger hunts, keeping everyone laughing late into the night. I planned every detail, from the playlist to the table settings, wanting it all to be perfect. My brother, Jason Cole, 3 years older, was always the cool one. He'd help Dad with the boat or charm the neighbors with his easy grin, but he never cared as much as I did. When he moved to Chicago for a banking job at 25, things shifted. He showed up less, called less, his life tied to the city and his girlfriend. I'd text him asking if he'd come home, but his replies were short, distant. Busy, he'd say. Maybe next year. Those years apart stung, but I told myself it was just him growing up. I clung to the lake house, to the tradition that felt like home. Mom still sent me recipes to approve, and Dad asked which bait I'd pick for fishing. I thought we were still us, but as I got older, I noticed cracks. Mom and Dad would talk about Jason's job, his apartment, his life in Chicago, their voices bright with pride. When my freelance writing came up, they'd nod, but their eyes didn't light the same way. "It's not steady," Mom once said, her tone gentle but sharp. I brushed it off, pouring more of myself into the tradition to prove I belonged. By my late 20s, I was the one keeping the flame alive, driving up early, hauling boxes of lights, planning menus with Mom, checking the boat with Dad. The neighbors, families we'd known forever, started joining us, their kids running wild with ours. I loved the chaos, the way it felt like we were all one big family, but Jason's absence grew heavier. He'd breeze in for a day, maybe 2, then leave early claiming work. His girlfriend started coming instead, fitting into his spot like she'd always been there. I didn't mind at first. She was nice, laughed at my jokes, but it felt like Jason was slipping away. And Mom and Dad didn't seem to care. I never missed a single New Year's at the lake house. For years, I dropped everything to be there, even when it cost me. 2 years ago, I got a call from a big New York magazine. They wanted me to fly out for an interview, a staff writer position, the kind of job that could have changed my career. I was 29, scraping by as a freelance journalist, pitching stories late into the night. The offer was a dream, but it fell on the same weekend as our family tradition. I didn't hesitate. I turned it down, telling myself the lake house was worth it. Mom needed me for the menu. Dad for the fishing plans. I couldn't let them down. Looking back, I wonder why I thought they'd notice. Last November, everything shifted. It started with a simple family group chat. Mom had sent a photo of the lake house, already decorated for winter. Snow dusting the railings, the dock lights glimmering beneath a pale gray sky. "Counting down to New Year's," she wrote, followed by a smiley face. I smiled back, heart warming at the thought. Then Jason replied, "We're so excited. Can't wait to show everyone the renovations." Renovations? My brow furrowed. I hadn't heard a thing about renovations. Renovations? I typed, "What renovations?" Mom replied quickly. Oh, just small updates Jason helped fund. New deck, some kitchen work. It looks beautiful. That didn't bother me much. Until I scrolled up and saw the guest list she'd attached for planning meals. It was full. Neighbors, friends, even Jason's girlfriend's parents. My name wasn't there. I thought it had to be a mistake. I laughed out loud, half expecting a "whoops, forgot you" text to follow. But instead, I saw 3 little dots appear, then vanish, then appear again. Then Mom's message came through. Honey, we thought you might be busy this year. You always have so much freelance work around the holidays. Don't feel pressured. The screen blurred for a second. I blinked hard. Busy? They never even asked. I tried calling. No answer. I called again. Dad picked up this time. Dad, what's going on? You guys aren't having New Year's without me, right? A pause. Then, calm as a still lake, he said, We just thought you could use a break. Jason and Lily are hosting this time. It'll be simpler. I stood there in my tiny apartment, staring at the wall as that word replayed in my mind. Simpler meant without me. They didn't want my decorations, my menus, my scavenger hunts, the glow I worked so hard to build. They wanted Jason's version. Polished, effortless, Instagram-worthy. That night, I opened a bottle of cheap wine and sat on my couch, scrolling through old lake house photos. Every string light, every meal, every laugh, I had built that magic. And now they were erasing me from it. But grief turned into something sharper, cold, focused. If they didn't want me there, fine. But they were about to remember who made those memories shine. Over the next few weeks, I poured myself into something new. Something that would outlast the lake house. I started writing a story. Not fiction, but truth. A personal essay titled, The Forgotten Daughter, How Families Rebuild Without You. It was raw. Honest. I wrote about the quiet hurt of being left behind, of watching your family celebrate traditions you built without you. I didn't name them, but every word came from the truth they handed me. The essay went viral. It was published by the same New York magazine I had once turned down. Within days, my inbox filled with messages. Editors, agents, strangers telling me how it touched them. My following doubled, then tripled. Podcasts wanted me. TV spots even. Then came Mom's call. Sweetheart, she began, voice trembling. Your story? People keep asking if it's about us. I stayed quiet. Was it? She asked. I took a breath. It's about how it feels to be erased from something you built. Silence stretched. Then Dad's voice broke in from the background. You made us look heartless, Hannah. I didn't make you do anything, I said, steady now. You did that yourselves. They didn't reply. A week later, photos of the lake house popped up on social media. Jason, Lily, my parents, everyone smiling under the lights I'd strung years ago. My decorations, my setup, even the playlist I'd made once played in the background of a video clip. The comments were full of praise. What a beautiful family. Such a warm tradition? I didn't cry this time. I just saved the photos and quietly closed the app, because what came next wasn't sadness. It was resolve. I spent New Year's Eve alone in my apartment. The city outside was loud with fireworks, laughter, and clinking glasses. I didn't even bother turning on the TV. I sat at my desk, a cup of tea gone cold beside me, and opened a new document. The title read, When the Ones Who Raised You Stop Seeing You. It wasn't bitterness that drove me now. It was clarity. Writing had always been my mirror, but that night, it became my weapon. Each sentence cut away the ache, replacing it with power. By midnight, I wasn't crying. I was free. The next morning, my essay had already begun spreading. A literary podcast featured a segment on it, calling my voice quietly devastating and necessary. By noon, my inbox overflowed with messages from people who saw themselves in my story. The overlooked daughter, the forgotten sibling, the one who loved too deeply. Then, I got a message from an unknown number. You really didn't have to humiliate us like that. It was Jason. For a moment, I stared at the text. I could almost hear his voice. Casual, half angry, half smug. The same tone he used whenever he thought I was being dramatic. I typed back, You left me out of our family's tradition. You didn't think that was humiliating? His reply came fast. We didn't think you'd care that much. You always made it a bigger deal than it was. That stung more than I wanted to admit. But then, a strange calm settled over me. You're right, I wrote. I did make it a big deal. Because it mattered. That's what you'll never understand. I hit send. Then I blocked him. By the end of January, the essay was everywhere. My name, Hannah Cole, started appearing in writing circles, editorials, even national publications. The magazine that had rejected me once now offered me a column. "Your voice has resonance," the editor said. I was finally being seen, not for what I did for others, but for what I was. A month later, I got another call from Mom. I debated answering, but picked up. Her tone was softer this time, hesitant. "We read your new piece," she said. "Your father, he feels awful." I waited. "He wants to invite you to the lake house this summer," she added. "To talk, maybe start fresh." For a moment, I almost agreed. The thought of seeing the water, the lights, the dock, it tugged at me like a familiar melody. But then I remembered their laughter in that photo, the way they filled my place without a second thought. "I appreciate that," I said quietly. "But I've started a new tradition," she sighed. "You're still our daughter, Hannah." "I know," I said. "But sometimes family has to find you in the wreckage, not the other way around." We hung up without saying goodbye. That night, I drove 2 hours north, not to the lake house, but to another lake entirely. Smaller, quieter. I rented a cabin for a weekend and brought only a notebook, a pen, and a string of fairy lights. When night fell, I hung the lights along the railing of the little deck, watching their glow ripple across the dark water. It looked nothing like our old lake house, and yet, somehow, it felt more like home. The next morning, I took a photo. Not for them, not for anyone else. Just for me. Then I posted it with a caption that read, "Sometimes you don't need to return to the place that broke you to rebuild what you lost." It was shared thousands of times. Spring arrived with an unexpected peace. For the first time in years, I didn't feel that aching pull toward the past. My mornings were slow. Coffee, writing, sunlight cutting across my desk. My words no longer came from pain. They came from perspective. My column gained momentum, but I stayed grounded. I didn't chase virality anymore. I wrote about identity, quiet courage, the strange balance between love and loss. People began to call it healing journalism. It made me smile. Not because of the praise, but because I finally knew who I was outside of their approval. Then, one evening, my phone buzzed. A voicemail from Mom. Her voice cracked slightly. "Hey, honey. We sold the lake house." For a moment, I just sat there staring at the wall. Sold it. The words echoed like a closing door. She went on. "Your father's retiring soon. Jason and Lily are moving to Boston. We thought it was time to let it go." Her voice softened. "I hope you're doing well, sweetheart. We miss you." I replayed the message twice. There was a version of me that might have broken down. That little girl who once believed the lake house held our family together. But I wasn't her anymore. That night, I lit a candle on my windowsill and looked out over the city. Somewhere, another family was moving into that lake house, stringing their own lights, creating their own traditions. The thought didn't hurt. It almost felt right. The next week, I returned to that small lake, my own quiet retreat. The air was still, the water smooth like glass. I unpacked my notebook and the same string of fairy lights, now slightly tangled, and smiled. A neighbor from a nearby cabin waved as I plugged them in. "Pretty lights," she said. "They're tradition," I replied. I sat down and started writing again. This time not about loss or family or proving myself. Just about peace. About how sometimes the best stories aren't the ones you fight to be part of, but the ones you learn to write on your own terms. The essay that came out of that weekend was titled "The Light We Carry When No One Notices." It became my most read piece yet. Not because it was dramatic or raw or viral, but because it was whole. And when my mom called again, months later, I picked up without hesitation. "Hi, Mom," I said. "Hi, sweetheart. Just wanted to tell you, we read your latest piece. It was beautiful." I smiled. "Thanks, Mom." There was a pause, long enough to mean something. "Are you happy?" she asked. I looked at the reflection of the lights in the water, the way they shimmered softly, quietly. Mine and no one else's. "Yeah," I said finally. "I really am, and for the first time I truly was."